Hey folks, welcome everyone. Welcome to this online meetup. We're just going to wait for a few more seconds for folks to join, and then we'll go ahead and get started. All right, and I think we are ready. We're ready to get started. So welcome to this online meetup, a hands-on introduction to Okta, Okta workflows, and then we will be building a notification flow. So first of all, hi, my name is Max. If you attended previous events, then you saw me or heard me before. A few things before we get started. So this event is being recorded, and then the recording will be available right at the same place. That's on Crowdcast. We will also upload the recording to YouTube. And then tomorrow, I'll send you a message with resources and also a link to YouTube. So the message will come from Crowdcast. Lastly, you can follow us on Crowdcast. There should be, I think in the upper right corner, there should be a follow button for you. And then what this means is that even if you don't register for events, when we go live, you'll be notified that we went live. And if we're doing something interesting, and I hope we do, you'll be able to join. All right. All right. So let's let me just so I can see my notes here. All right. If you have any questions, put them in chat. There's also on the right-hand side, there is a Q&A section. You can also put questions there. So, but again, feel free to put questions in chat. Okay. I only have 3 slides. I'm trying to get to actually no slides at all. So maybe at some point I'll do that. But we'll be building a flow. And then as I build the flow, I'll go over the fundamentals of workflows, right? I think it's probably, I believe it's one of the best ways to learn and understand how the platform works. Okay. And so that's it. Let's get started. I have one more slide at the end I'm going to show you, and that's just some resources. There's also a button you can see in the lower part of the screen. It says Workflows Builder Community. So that's a page with, you can click on the button, it will take you to a page with all the workflow resources that you need. Just one page with everything. You can bookmark it. And again, it has everything. All right. So let's get to workflows. Let me do this. All right, just gonna wait for a second for the screen to update. All right. Okay, so let's get started. So first, I'm gonna give you a quick overview of this dashboard. If this is your first time, then you're gonna probably end up on the homepage for workflows. And so here you've got some videos here at the top. On the right-hand side here, you've got resources. Documentation, we've got office hours where you can ask questions, training, and some other links. So use those resources. Again, those resources are also listed in that page that you can click on. And it has other stuff as well. Now, the flows, this is where we're gonna go in just a sec. But let's click to let's click to connections. We're going to also come back to this page, but these are connections to external services, right? So we're going to be connecting to Slack and also to Gmail. So this is a list of all the connections that you have. And finally, there are also templates. So these are pre-built workflows that you can add. You can sort of import or add, and then just see how it works. So this is a really good way to learn, just to see, pre-built or out-of-the-box solutions that you can try. All right. So that's a quick overview of sort of the workflows, sort of dashboard console. All right, so let's go to flows. And then on the left-hand side, you have folders, and you can see I have a lot of different folders. So you can, again, organize your flow, organize your flows into folders. And then this is the folder that I have here. This is the online meetup first flow in today's date. And then already I have two flows that I built before, but I'm going to build a new flow now. And then to create a new flow, you click new flow. Right, and this is what you will get. Okay, now right here says a name, so this is where you would give your flow a name. And let's say, so the flow, I don't know if I don't remember if I mentioned this when I was showing you the slides, but the flow that we're going to build is a notification flow. And more specifically, we'll have a flow where when the admin resets a password for a user, so we're going to notify the user, hey, the admin reset your password. Okay. But it's in general, a notification flow is pretty common, right? So it doesn't need to be a password. It can be also when a new user is added to the organization, or when the user is suspended, or anything, when anything happens in your sort of organization, you want to send a notification. So you can use this flow in many other scenarios. Okay, so, but this one in particular is for the password. So password reset by admin notification, and then usually a good idea to give it a description. So we're going to just copy and paste. Now, right here, save all data that passes through the flow. So you want to check this because when you run the flow, you'll be able to see the history, or you'll be able to see how the data passes from card to card. Now, if you forget to do this, it's not a problem. I'll show you. You can always just click go back, and then you'll be able to check or uncheck this again. But again, this is going to help you see the history of the flow and how the data is passed from card to card. But again, you'll see it in just a second. Okay, so we gave our flow a name, and then the next step, you can see this first card. So these are, we're going to, well, I'll come back to this in just a sec. But it says when this happens, right? So a flow need to be invoked or triggered. And there are two main ways. There are actually, I think, 5 or 6, but the two main ones, I would say the most popular ones, is when an event occurs in your system, right, in your organization. So in the example that I just gave, so when the admin resets a password, that's an event. And we saying, hey, when this event happens, we want to run this flow. Okay. Another event I also mentioned is when the user is suspended or user is activated. But there is a whole big list of events based on which you can trigger a flow. Now, these can be Okta events, and let me show you. These are various connected apps that I have, and let me just show you Okta. And you can see there's a long list of events. And Okta, of course, has the most events supported here. Again, user deleted, for example, a lot of different events. So you can trigger a flow on any of these events. Okay. Now the one we want again is password. Now, before I do that, it doesn't need to be Okta, right? For example, I have I don't know, Google Calendar, for example. It has less events, so the external connectors will support less events. But again, every connector or connection will support a different set of events. So you can see here that monitor updated event. So it says start a flow when an existing event is updated in Google Calendar. So you can trigger a flow when an event is updated. But let's see, we can maybe go to, I don't know, one more. Let's go Google Sheets. So this one is just one. It says when the new row is added to Google Worksheet. Okay. Anyhow, but let's go to Okta, and then we're going to search. So it's a long list. So we're going to say password and then right here, user Okta password reset by admin. So this is the event that we want. Now I mentioned two ways two most common ways to trigger a flow. One is the event we're using now. The other one is schedule. Okay, and I'm going to actually delete this for a second and show you. If you want to do a schedule, then it's right here. You would add this card, and then you can set up how often to run the flow. Okay, I've done other online meetups, and they're on YouTube, where we do use the schedule option. But let's delete this, and let's go back to Okta and then password. Now, so this is the event, and now, so this is a card, right? And I mentioned cards before. So this is a card, and these are fields on the card. So these fields. This is all the information that you get with this event. Okay, and you can see that there's a date and time. There's some IDs, and the admin. So this is the admin who reset the password right here. And then one little trick, if you want to try, is that you can actually kind of collapse these fields, and then the Okta user. So that's the user whose password is being reset. Okay, and you can see there is some other additional information that you have from the event. Okay, but for us, primarily, we're interested in the admin, right? So who's the person who reset the password, and also, of course, the user whose password was reset. Now, what I usually do is once I have the event, it's always interesting to see kind of to test this right away and just see the information. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to click save, and we're going to actually run this or trigger this flow. Now we click save, and then right here it's right now off, so we need to turn the flow on, right? Before it can be triggered. So the flow is on, and again, it doesn't do much. All we want to see is the information that we receive from this event. And then when we test, we're going to go to flow history. Okay, and for now we have no executions, but now we need to go find a user. So I'm going to go to my admin. Let me see here. So there's one question here. Would this be called a child flow? So a child flow is another type of a flow, right? So I mentioned, so there are two. There's the you can trigger a flow based on an event, and then there's a schedule, and probably the third most common, right, is calling a child flow or a helper flow, actually. So that's another way. We're not gonna do a helper flow in this example, but I believe my previous online meetup actually showed how to use a helper flow. But it's the idea is that one flow calls another flow, like a sub flow or a helper flow. So that's the idea. All right, so I've got Olivia Green here, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna just reset Olivia's password, and click reset. Now, just when you reset, an email actually goes out to the user, but we're gonna send the user another email also. Well, let's click reset password and go back to our flow here. And sometimes it takes a few seconds, sometimes it takes a little bit longer. And then let's see if we can see the execution here. Oh, here we go. Sometimes you need to click back, go back to flow and come back. But you can see that we had one run here, and it says success. As you can see now, this card has all the various data, and then every field has some data, and then you can expand and see what this information is, and it's going to be in JSON format, right? So this is the admin, and then you can see that that's I'm the admin, and so the admin reset the password. Okay, and then the Okta user field has information about the user. So I usually like to do this even before I put any other steps in the flow. Just, hey, let me just see how this works, right? Can I trigger the flow when I make a change somewhere in the system, and just kind of see the information. Does it have all the information that I need to continue the execution? Okay, Now let's go back. So this particular one, and let's go back for a sec. And then I'm looking at the user, and I'm looking here, and it does have the email. That's all I need. Now, just to show you a little bit more, in some cases you might need additional information about the user, but this is all we have. We have their ID, their email, and their name. But let's say we want additional information. So how do we do that? Well, then we're going to call an app action. Now, as you can see, there's app action, and then there's a function. Now, app action is when we interact with services. This is, of course, the Okta service, but also external services. And then, if you're not sure what it is, then there is a little question mark we can see. And I use this all the time. And there's also one right here on every card will have that. And then it really, tells you what this card does. And then you can see action cards for applications are step you add that control other applications. Okay, so in our case, this is the Okta application. And then we're also going to do Gmail and also Slack. And then function cards allow you to work with data. So you can work with numbers, strings, lists, objects, and there are other functions that you can call. So again, an action will call another app, and then a function will manipulate and work with data. But let's go here, and then you can see I've got the connected apps, and then I need Okta, and the one that I need is called read user. So we're saying, hey, this event was triggered, but we need to get additional information about the user. So the card we're going to use is read user. And then it's actually showing me the inputs. So the input is the ID, and then the outputs. Now, what you can do is you can see these checkboxes. Every card you can actually decide what outputs you want to show. So of course, every card is going to be different. But let's say I don't need the system properties. I don't need the password, the last updated, the last login. I'm not interested. But I do want to have the primary email, and then you click save. Right now, if you ever need to go back, then you can always click this gear and then choose fields. All right. Now this ID. Now, where do we get the ID? Well, we know that the ID is coming from this event. And then so we're gonna do the Okta user, and then I'm gonna take the ID field and then connect it like this. Okay. Now, what we can also do is we can test each individual card as well. Right? I showed you how we actually tested the whole flow before, but we can also test each card. Is that right here? And we just need the ID. So you can get the ID either from the flow history, or if we go to here in the URL, that's the ID of the user. So we can copy the ID and then paste it here and click test. And then you can see, oh, so this works. All right, we get all the information. So we tested the card. Right, we're good to go. Okay. Now, next, we're going to create a short message. And so again, before to connect to other systems, we use an action. Now, to work with data, we use a function. And the one I'm going to use is called compose. And this allows you to just write text. And I'm going to say password reset by, and then I want to say I want to add the admin's name, and then I'm going to scroll up here and then take this field, and again just drag and drop it like this. Okay. Now, if you want, you can always test this card. It's a little bit simpler here, so we can just say max, and then this is how it works. But you can test this card as well. Okay. Now the next step is we want to send an email to Olivia and say, hey, your password was reset. Now, because we're going to be using Gmail, it's an app action, and I'm going to click app action, and then I'm going to search Gmail. And then I want to use the send email one. And then also right here, so I already have an existing connection to Gmail, right? So you need to connect to Gmail in order to be able to send an email. Now, behind the scenes, what happens is that this is an API call. This is a REST API call that's being sent to Gmail. And same thing with Okta, right? These are API calls that are done behind the scenes. But you don't need to worry about setting up the API call. You can use this visual approach to make those calls. Now, I have two connections, and you can create multiple connections if you would like. Well, let me show you how you can create one. And of course, you'll have to do that if this is your first time. So I'm going to click New Connection, and I'm going to say Gmail 3. I'm going to click Create. And then I'm sure you've seen these steps before, is that it's going to ask you to select an account, and then it's going to tell you, that Okta will have access to your Gmail, will be able to send emails on your behalf. And I'm going to say allow. All right, and that's it. Now I've created the connection. Now every app might be a little bit different, right? So this is how Gmail works, but some other service might, you might need to perform slightly different steps to create a connection. Now, let's go here. I've got some fields here and then I don't need those fields. So I'm going to actually hide them. And then we're going to leave the subject and the body. And then the two, now we use the read user. So I'm going to take the primary email and I'm going to connect it like this. Now the subject, I'm going to say password reset. And if we want, we can add a little key. And now the body we got right here. Now, what we can do is we can just take the output as before and just connect like this. And one thing I recommend is that when you use a compose, the name of the field is output. But it's a good idea to give it a different name, so it just has a little bit more context. Now, to do that, you would click this little, this is the type, and then customize, and then give it just a different password, message perhaps, and you click save. And then notice it changes here, but then it changes here as well. Okay, so let's save, and now let's run. And then one last thing, we'll add a Slack as well. So let's go back to Olivia, and then let's reset Olivia's password again. All right, now let's go to flow history. I'm sorry, and then so it says in progress. Sometimes it will say in progress. Let's go back here. Okay, here we go. It's done. So you can see this was we already saw this, but then you see how the next card is now being sort of populated with data, and then the compose, and then the email here as well. For some reason, it's still working here. Interesting. That's why I don't see the message ID. Let's just refresh and see. Sometimes that helps. Okay, so now we can see the ID here. Okay, so this view is extremely helpful for understanding how the flow works. Also just debugging the flow and just seeing how the data, passes from card to card. Now, the email, I have it right here, and then we're going to say Olivia Green. Okay, so this is the one that was sent on the very first try, and this is the automatic email that is sent when you reset the password, where you can see it came from Okta. Now, but this is the one we just sent, right? It has a little key, and then this is the email. All right. Now, let's go back. Okay, so an event is triggered, we get more user information, we create a message, and then we send an email. Let's add one more, and that's Slack, right? So Slack is also very common. And then because Slack is an external app or service, it's going to be an action. And so Slack, and then we're going to send a message to, let's see here, send message to channel. And then also every card is going to be different, but then every card is going to ask you to sort of configure it. And then in this case, I already connected to my Slack workspace or instance, and then I'm going to use this channel. And then it's going to ask you, do you want to send as a bot? I'm actually going to say yes, and then some other information, and then click save. I don't need the inputs. I don't need the timestamp, but I want to do the icon emoji, and then save. And again, if you ever need to go back, you can always click edit card, or you can go back to choose fields. Okay. Now the text, we're going to get the text again they already have. The name is going to be password bot, and then let's add a little key. And then, oh no, sorry, bot. The emoji goes here. Sorry, here we go. All right. So save. Okay, let's run this. Let's go to Olivia. Olivia is right here. Let's reset her password again. And let's see, I've got a Slack here. Let's see, here we go. And you can see that the message was sent in Slack. And if I go back to workflows, then we can see there's a third run, and then we've got the Slack message here, the Slack card. One thing I'm going to quickly just show you. Let's say for the Slack, right, we want to capitalize the entire message, just for whatever reason. Just to show you another example using a function card. So right here, you can add steps between cards, and then we're going to click this calculator, and then you can search, but for example, upper, and then there's a two uppercase card. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take this message, right? Now, what's really neat is that you can take it from here. This is the original place, but you can also take it from here, connect it like this, and then the connection goes back to the original one. And then the output, we're going to just rename it and say message upper. And then right here, we're going to remove and just connect like this. Okay. Again, just another example of how you can kind of manipulate data. And let's go back to Olivia quickly and then reset her password again. And let's go to Slack. Oh, and here we go. We can see that the password is now, the message is all capitalized. And one last peek at the flow history, right? So again, the event is triggered. We read user information. We create a message. We send an email. Then we capitalize the message specifically for Slack. And then we send a message to Slack. Okay. Well, that's all I wanted to show you. Let me go back. Let me move this. All right, so we saw this. Right, so the building part. So again, I hope this was helpful. So my goal is to build the flow and cover the fundamentals as much as possible. And again, we have other online meetups that kind of have a very similar format, but just we build a different flow. So you can either check it out on Crowdcast, or you can go to YouTube and find them and learn from building sort of live building. All right. Feel free to, again, to post any questions. But before we end here, so we have another online meetup coming up next Tuesday. And so this was kind of an introduction. The one next week is a little bit more advanced. We're going to be talking about webhooks. So again, it's next Tuesday. If you go to Crowdcast, so you can just register there. There is a link that's in the slide that has all the resources. As I mentioned, that's the Workflows Builder community page with all the resources. But there is also, you can click the green button in the bottom of your page. It will take you to the same page. And finally, my email. So if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to send me an email. I think that's it. Again, please, any questions? So this is your opportunity to put them in chat. One last thing I'll say is, if you have any ideas for other topics to cover or flows to build, please let me know. But if I don't see any more questions, then thank you very much for joining us today. We'll, again, send a message with the recording, but the recording on Crowdcast will be available right after we end. And then I will see you next time. Thanks again. Bye.